So I've been in the head of 49 women. Hello, welcome back to my channel. In my last video, I was having an identity crisis / reading crisis, just several crises. Since I recorded that video, I have decided to take it upon myself to read the first chapter of 50 Romantasy books. I'm sure that's what the title says, something along those lines. So clearly, that's what I've done. I read the first chapter of all these books. Now, my internal logic with this was that, I got into reading with Cassandra, which you can easily see when you just do a quick little overview of my channel. There's all this conversation around romantasy and fantasy, which I will save for another video or maybe link some of my favorite creators talking about it, because I just don't know that I have enough knowledge and experience to discuss it. I just know from what I hear, from what all the girls are saying, the girls and boys, I think I'll enjoy romantasy. I don't know that I'll enjoy it more than fantasy. I don't know. I don't know. But this is my first step into the pool of trying to see if maybe I've been disliking fantasy so much or having such a hard time getting into fantasy for so long because I actually want to be reading romantasy. Now, overall thoughts after reading the first chapter of all 50 of these books is that I don't think a single one of them is written by a man, which is now not that I know there's some out there. I know that there's some published by men. I don't know how many are, and I know they're mostly written by queer men, which I actually would prefer for a non-straight man to write a romance. Although I know there's definitely some straight men who have written like female-female romance, which whole other topic, not even gonna touch it. I just also found that like the first chapter of every single one of these books will describe the male love interest by their physical aspects. Like that's a very, like almost every single one of these books starts in the female POV and describes the physical characteristics of the man. Like, oh, he's so chiseled, oh, his abs, oh, his like cut jawline. And I'm just only in the first chapter of all these books. So I just feel like we could do more things to stand out a little bit. So also my bias, my perspective, my thoughts of what I was going to rank high versus low is so different. It's so different from what actually ended up happening. So let's start with, like I said, there's 50 of them here, because so we have a long time to go. I just took one little of a blurb. Some of them I didn't even make a note for, so I'm not sure I'll be able to fully articulate my thoughts on every single one of these books. But starting at number 50, we have A Shield of Sparrows. All I did was write a shoulder shrug emoji. I remember finding it incredibly generic. Generic is such a good word for several of these books. I just find that they aren't doing anything to stand out, at least in the first chapter. So you can let me know if that's fair or not, but my reading crisis identity has had me like, okay, I clearly don't know what I like. And I realized what I used to do with TV shows is I would watch like the first episode of like 10 different shows before deciding what show to commit to. So I'm like, duh, I can do the same thing with books. Like I just read the first chapter of 50 books. And I will say there are some I'm very excited, like the top 10 on this list, like I'm very intrigued to read them. Okay, so but Shield of Sparrows, sorry, maybe chapter 2 is more intriguing, I don't know. Then we've got Curse of Shadows and Thorns. Again, it felt incredibly generic. The cover I feel is generic, like romantasy with all the like I can't even tell you what the cover of this is off the top of my head, but I'm sure it has like flowers or a sword or a crown, or like all of these romantasies have like that cursive writing, it's just all the same. Then we've got Blood and Steel. I don't remember much about it. Then we've got Lightlark, which definitely felt like younger YA, but I think that's also because the narrator for that, well, I want to say it's Rebecca. I think it's the same girl who does Fourth Wing and Cinder. I know it's Rebecca something. Soler. I saw that. I thought of that before I saw it. Not that that's a brag. Anyways, I don't know. Something about Rebecca Soler's narration just makes me feel like we're reading younger YA than, I don't know. But Lightlark. And also I'm like, was that the narrator for Lightlark? She's narrated a lot. I mean, I don't think she's a bad narrator. I just think that for some reason, her voice just reads out. Sorry, that's a tangent. I'm trying to avoid tangents. Okay, so number 46 is gonna be The Hurricane Wars. And I know this was, I believe, Raylo fanfic from the beginning, and I remember seeing reviews about the world building being clunky, and that is my only comment, is that whatever she was trying to do to explain the world building was confusing, just in the first chapter. So I'm sure it continues, I don't know. Number 45 is actually a book I'd already read, but I decided I was gonna reread it to just see if I go into it with a romantasy mindset, if anything changed, and that's gonna be Legends and Lattes, which I just felt was so boring. Like, I guess I just need a little more conflict in my books compared compared to what we get in there. And that's really all I have to say. I mean, I know, again, it's a sapphic romance, but it's also written by a man. So that's just things to consider. Then we've got Daughter of No Worlds, which I did not read Daughter of No Worlds, but I have read Serpent and the Wings of Night, which I believe is going to appear higher up in the list. We'll see where, but we're on number 44. So we're in the bottom 10 still. Again, just nothing stood out to me from the first chapter. You know what I mean? Like, if we're trying to, grasp me from the first chapter, it really didn't do a whole lot for me. Then we've got When the Moon Hatched. That's number 43 on my list. Yeah, again, I just found that I remember we're getting the male love interest described, like, I don't think it was as descriptive as some other books, but it was definitely part of the first chapter. And I also felt like, and I hear everyone say the world building stuff is cool, but we kind of like forget about that. So that makes me a lot less excited. And I'm wondering like how much, it's interesting because like some of these books are ending up in my bottom 10 and I'm agreeing with some of the reviews, but trust me, there's gonna be some in the top 10 that I'm like, y'all are gonna be like, oh, he loves some trash. Okay. Number 42 is gonna be Lore of the Wilds. Just nothing stood out to me in that. I'm so sorry. Like I wish it had been more it didn't stick out to me. I couldn't even tell you any names, anything with the world. I couldn't tell you anything about it. Number 41 is gonna be That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon, which everyone says is funny. I don't remember laughing. Like I think I have a pretty decent. I'm sure maybe just the first chapter isn't hilarious. I couldn't tell you anything about that either. I couldn't tell you anything about the book either, which is just again, we're only going off the first chapter here. So like, is it fair? Probably not. Number 40, I was shocked because I've been wanting to read this series for so long. I know the series just got adapted. It's the first book of the Black Dagger Brotherhood. I don't know. Something about it was just very bland. Like I know it's like 25 plus books at this point, and I believe there's like a spin-off series, and I know it just became, like I said, became a TV show, I think. And I love me some vampire stuff. So like, I'm just really surprised that I wasn't more intrigued by it. But I guess like the characters, I've also come to realize over the years that I'm much more character driven than I would have said when I first like got into reading. Like I need some good characters. So something about the characters just wasn't sticking out from chapter 1. Number 39 is the Book of Azrael. Now this one and some of the other ones on here, I was able to get a pretty lengthy piece of the story because I listened to the graphic audio, and a lot of the graphic audio versions are actually like almost an hour long, sometimes more than an hour long. So I had to get a pretty good chunk of the story in there. However, this is number 39 on the list, so I wasn't super intrigued by all of the events that happened in just the first section of the book. I don't know how they like pair it all. Like I don't know how graphic audio does versus the chapter 1. I don't know whether I just listened to part 1 of the graphic audio, and it was very dramatic, but also not in a way that intrigued me. I don't know. I do feel like I got a good idea of like some of the character motivations and stuff, and that was good, but I just didn't find anything romantically set up that interesting, anything fantasy-wise set up that interesting. I don't know. And like once we get to the ones I enjoyed more, I think I can kind of pinpoint that a little bit better, maybe. But that was number 39. Number 38 is Morning Glory Milking Farm. This is just such an interesting, I don't know, like I'm very intrigued by it, but I'm just like comparing it in terms of like intrigue and fascination and like enjoyment of fantasy elements. Like I wouldn't be reading it for that. I would just be reading it for like the novelty of it, if you will. Like I remember like I showed the cover of the book to someone and they looked at me like, so it would just be fun to read just to say I've read that. But it wasn't incredible or anything like that. But I mean, I do think I'm going to read it. I think I'm going to read most of these at some point. Okay, number 37 is Kiss of the Basilisk. Of course, like also all these chapter 1s are all varying lengths. So it's like maybe a more fair thing would be like to listen to the first 30 minutes to the first hour, because I mean, some of them I did listen to over an hour. Just food for thought. The thing about Kiss of the Basilisk is that like the world did intrigue me, the characters intrigue me, and I remember there was like, I want to say she had a bisexual best friend that was a guy, so like that just already is like somehow different. I don't think we even met a love interest unless she's gonna get with a guy who's bisexual. I don't know. But see, now that one I do think I'm gonna read. Also I know it has like I feel like people say this one's a little trashy, and like sometimes you just need that, sometimes you just need a little brain swipe. Okay, number 36 is A Magical Guide to Innkeeping, which I also read the author's other book, I think, or maybe I think I DNF'd the other book, so I wasn't super intrigued to read this. I don't know what it is about her writing. Like it's just something about the way she writes in my brain just don't seem to connect. Like I don't seem to be following. I DNF'd the first book because I was like not sure how we got from point A to point B with the way the story was told. I was just listening to the audiobook, so of course like maybe it works better in the written form. I don't know, but just from that one chapter, I love the like concept of. I love like the concept of like magical children in a school. Like favorite concept ever, honestly. But it just I don't know. Honestly, I don't really know what I'm not even sure what to tell you the synopsis of that book is. So that's unfortunate. Okay, number 35, we've got The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. This one, I really liked the writing. And I remember literally the first chapter is just like, okay, like a little bit set up and then she goes under the sea. So like, I'm like, okay, well, I want to know what happens next. Number 34 is The Blood of Hercules, which I remember seeing like PR packages for when this came out and like the hype and like people keep talking about how there's a romantasy trend of like a fantasy setting with modern language, which I briefly touched on in my last video. And this is one of the books I'm thinking about with I feel like it's a fantasy setting, but it has modern language, and I think I will enjoy that. However, it's 34 on my list, so maybe not. And I think I kind of completely zoned out for all of the world building that was happening at the beginning of the book. Number 33 on my list is Caraval. This one surprised me. I thought this one would be like bottom 10, but I did like how we set things up here. I did. And I guess I shouldn't be surprised because Stephanie Garber is incredibly popular, so clearly she's got something going on for her. Number 32 is whatever the first book in the Broken Bonds series is, or is the first book Broken Bonds? Definitely just, again, the way this stuff is set up, I'm intrigued. I know it's a why choose, things I hear. I'm just curious what's gonna happen. Like, I'm just curious the first chapter, she like briefly, it feels very angsty, and I'm kind of a sucker for the angsty. I am intrigued to see what happens, and the first chapter continued to make me intrigued based off of also what I hear about the books. Number 31 is Daughter of the Moon Goddess, which the writing was just so good. Again, I just really like, I guess like the Asian inspired setting, because I love the poppy war. I feel like I need to read more of the Asian inspired stuff because I just think it's just a beautiful like inspiration setup. Like, I just enjoyed it a lot. Okay, now I would say like from 30 to 20, these are like, okay, I enjoyed these, like will most likely read them in the next year or so if I can. The ones so far, I don't know. I mean, I think I want to read all of these, honestly. Like, just to kind of compare initial thoughts to final thoughts, like I just kind of want to read them all just to see. But number 30 is going to be Trial of the Sun Queen, which has a fantastic opening line, and just the way the world's set up and the way the characters interact with each other, like all of it intriguing. Want to continue. Okay, number 29, this one, I was pretty surprised. Like, I think it's one of the first ones that I read, and again, the like mentality I've seen online is that like this is so bad, but it actually was like one of my top 10 for a while until I, read better. But like it just seems really fun. It just seems fun and silly and stupid, and yeah, I mean, and from the first chapter, I liked how the world's set up. It's not overcomplicated, but it's not, it just seems fun. Okay, number 28 is the other Carissa Broadbent, which is Serpent and the Wings of Night, which I've already read, but I don't know what happened when I read it. I think I actually read it in a vlog, and I don't feel like I said anything articulate about the book, which is my whole channel at this point. I don't think I said anything productive. I don't think I grasped what was going on. I think I was reading, this is another thing, just sidebar, like I've got to read at 1.5 speed. Like I got to listen at 1.5 speed. I think I'm just expecting my brain to work way faster than it actually does, and that's okay. I would rather actually be able to enjoy the story and review the story than just say I read 300 books. Like, I don't want to do that. The first chapter was definitely intriguing. I know I've already read the book, but it's like I said, I can't really tell you anything about what happens in it. I just remember like certain trials. I remember like the villain. I remember like very little about it. So it's like, I don't really feel like it's even fair to review the book because I can't tell you anything about it. Okay, number 27 is A Deal with the Elf King. Now this one is another graphic audio situation, so I did get a good chunk of the story in there. However, I don't feel like we really got much of a magical element wise fantasy thing. Like, it's definitely like a fantasy world feeling, but I like when we've got magic powers. Like, that's what I like, when characters have, or we have like creatures. Like, I just don't know that we really are getting that from, but it's number 27, so it's not the bottom, but it's not the top, And then we've got number 26 from Blood and Ash, which, as I was like listening to it, which again, it was a graphic audio situation, and I feel many people say the writing is like the worst writing they have ever read, which maybe is because it's just very like telling, not showing. But with the graphic audio and the situation with the characters, like I can understand how people say, like, I feel like people will review it and they'll be like, she's a maiden for what? Like, what's going on? Like, it's confusing. Like, obviously I've only read the first chapter, but I definitely feel like I don't have a full grasp on what kind of world we're in. However, the romance part of it was like intriguing, so I feel like I could maybe forgive other stuff, but just be conscious about how I review the book and like say what I enjoyed about it, because people trying to, I don't want to be someone who says that they think it's a great book, but I only enjoy it for the romance. Like, I feel like you can read this book and say you just enjoyed it for the romance, and that's fine. But also you could say you enjoyed it for the fantasy elements, like that's also fine. But I don't personally feel like we're getting that much fantasy to go off of, at least from the first one chapter. Number 25, we're in the top 25. We've got Ice Planet Barbarians, which I think the first chapter was pretty long, and just the concept is so intriguing, and just the like wish fulfillment aspect of it, you know, which I'm not a woman, but I am attracted to the idea of a big barbarian man. Yeah, I just, you know, it's funny because I saw TikTok with some girl who was like, this is the world I want to live in, and I'm like, you know, I don't know, there's just something about it, you know, something about it that just hits right. Okay, number 24 is going to be Heavenly Bodies, which I didn't make any notes about. And I couldn't tell you, I believe this was the one where we have like a big kind of, not discussion, but like I remember there's like a talk of like all the gods and what all the gods represent, which is something I'm also a sucker for. So I definitely felt like the fantasy of this was going to give. And I don't remember that we met a love interest in the first chapter, which I think is good because I want to like get established with the character I'm with first, kind of, as opposed to these other books that we're talking about where I feel like we are just like barely knowing our female character, and then all of a sudden she meets a man, and then it's like all about the man. It's like, let's just get to know her first, you know, like let's get to know our girl, then we can, you know. I could be completely wrong, honestly. Like I'm trying to remember if that's actually the case or not, because I don't think she met, maybe there was like a discussion about a man, a potential love interest or not, I don't know. But I enjoyed what I read of it, so, you know, top 25. Number 23 is going to be The Night Ends in Fire, which I, again, pretty sure this is Asian inspired, and I couldn't tell you about it. The cover is absolutely stunning, but also the writing was really good, and I feel like the fantasy was really good, and I feel like I think we start with the fantasy descriptions versus the romance aspect. So like this was, I remember it like, and I remember I almost bought this like at the store the other day because I was like, no, I already read the first chapter, and the cover is just so beautiful, I want to own it. But only reading one chapter, how much can you really judge it, you know? Okay, and then number 22 is going to be Bride by Ali Hazelwood, which just had such a, you know, I don't know what it is about her writing that's just so addictive. Like it's just very snarky and funny, and this is the kind of humor that I enjoy. So like something about her humor just works for me. I did remember thinking that she was continuously making a joke about werewolves and their hair, and it was getting a little excessive, but you know, right when I was like, okay, that's enough, like we kind of switched POVs at that point. So, you know, and I love how she writes men that, you know, you're never in their head, but you can just tell they're like so in love with, you know, I don't know. She just does it for me. Okay, number 21 is going to be Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, because I was worried I wouldn't like this because I don't know that I super loved Half a Soul, and I feel like this is constantly compared to Half a Soul, and I didn't like Half a Soul. Like I feel like that's like a historical setting with like an autistic coded character, and this is also a historical setting with an autistic coded character, but fairies. So, and I think also Half a Soul is a fairy situation. So, you know, they're probably, maybe I wouldn't, if I read this and enjoy it, maybe I'll go back and reread Half a Soul, because again, it's like, did I even let the story go into my brain? Anyone's guess, really. Okay, number 20 on the list is going to be Paladin's Grace by T. Kingfisher, which I read Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher, didn't super love that, but and I also read Thornhedge, which is just so short. So I think maybe I can get more into a longer T. Kingfisher versus the shorter ones. Maybe that's just kind of where I am. I don't think I've ever given a novella 5 stars. Maybe a Cassandra Clare short story has gotten 5 stars, but you know, me exploring short stories and what I enjoy in them, that could be a whole other project. But I remember, again, like I'm feeling a little biased because I've seen reviews and I've seen commentary about like what this is and how it's about a character who worships a god and then they kind of lose their god. So just that concept alone, I'm just like, no, I want to see the exploration of all of that. Okay, and then we have, unfortunately, a book that is in my top 20 that I am intrigued by that hasn't shown up yet, which is probably like arguably the most popular book to be released in the last 5 years, right? It was in the last 5 years, right? Fourth Wing. I don't know what happened. I don't know. It's just very captivating how it's written, and of course it's like it falls into the little tropes of like hard chiseled jawline, this and this, but it's like something about it. There's just something about it. Maybe it's also like all the hype surrounding it, but something about the way it's written, I was like, all right, okay. Okay, then number 18 on the list is probably like one of the second most, like it's insanely how hyped this has gotten in just a short amount of time it's been out, Quicksilver. Okay, like I've seen so much commentary, I know so much about this book, about the love interest, about the like dynamics of what he says and does, but I'm still intrigued. I still want to know how it's all executed, you know, and the world building stuff seemed pretty cool from the first chapter. Okay, then number 17 on my list is going to be The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst, who is a writer and author I have always had high hopes for. Unlike another one I'll get into here in a second. Actually, there's a couple here that I thought I would like and I was happy to be correct about, because I'm like, oh, these are going to be my girls. These are my girls, okay? Sarah Beth Durst, she's going to be one of them, I think. The Spell Shop. Yeah, even though I didn't love Legends and Lattes, and I feel like this is compared to Legends of Lattes a lot, but I'm hoping this is going to hit the cozy vibes that Legends of Lattes didn't. And again, I could reread Legends of Lattes, the whole book, maybe. My opinions could change. I don't know. Maybe because I'm not super big into the D&D thing. I want to be, but at this moment, I'm not like, I don't get all the references and stuff. So that would be an interesting project as well. So I'm very hopeful for my journey with Sarah Beth Durst. I hope that she becomes a favorite author of mine. It seems like she's written a lot of things I would enjoy, and I just saw another booktuber that I enjoy their content, giving one of her books 5 stars. I can't really think of anything else to say about this fellowship. I mean, I'm very intrigued from chapter 1. It's just that simple. Okay, then number 16. Again, this one, I'm not surprised I enjoyed because I've seen, actually I think this was on many people's favorites list last year, and that is Heartless Hunter or The Crimson Moth. I'm not sure, I think maybe the UK is Crimson Moth. Anyways, in the US, it's Heartless Hunter. And yeah, I'm intrigued by the world, I'm intrigued by their writing, I'm intrigued by the characters. Also, I don't think we super met the male love interest yet, which I guess I'm enjoying that. Like, I just feel like we need to kind of, like I said before, you're gonna give me a chance to meet the girl before, but let me see what she's about to decide who she should be with, or who I think she should be with, because obviously my opinion matters so much because I'm gonna help write the book. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, it seems good. Okay, and the next is another author I have high hopes that I will enjoy, and that is The Prison Healer by Lynette. I think it's Lynette Noni. There's just something about this first chapter that was like very, like we really get into the character's mind in a way, and I remember, see, when I remember things about the book, I'm like, oh, okay, like that's good writing. I remember, and I don't know how many days ago it's been since I started this or listened to the first chapter, but I remember like she's in prison, and like all of the feelings that she had and how long she'd been in there, and like when she got letters from her family and stuff, like so I think this one's gonna hit pretty hard. Okay, this one is number 14 on my list. This is one that I've seen many people, they say it's a ripoff of something else. They say it's horrible. They say it's written so bad. They say it's like it's just so bad. And I really thought like I was gonna be in agreement with people, but this is number 14 on my list. Like I was more intrigued by this than I was by so many other things that I thought I would find more intriguing than this, and that's Powerless. I don't know what it is. It's just like compulsively readable. It's just, I don't know. And what I really also hate, by the way, that is common in a lot of these ones that are getting really popular lately. It seems to be like this trend of first person present tense, which is when you say like you're speaking, kind of like I'm speaking now, where I'm saying like I was walking into. How do you do first person? I don't know. I always recognize it when I hear it or see it, and I don't like it. I prefer things to be told to me as as if they already happened. Like I was walking down the street. This is such a bad example. I need to. I don't know how to explain it well, but I don't like the present tense thing. I can get behind first person, and that's fine. But a very popular book written this way that I like despite this is The Hunger Games. Let me just find an example. Gale holds up, instead of Gale was holding up, it's Gale holds up a loaf of bread with an arrow and I laugh. Instead of I laughed. I prefer past tense writing most of the time. However, this book is just too good, obviously. And I'm pretty sure Powerless is written in the same way. And somehow that, I don't know, I guess a lot of people like it because look at how popular it is. But for me, and I like it because here I am putting it in the top 15. Also, like I said, Powerless was again read by Rebecca Soler. She must be, I hope she's getting her bag. Like she narrates something and it makes it blow up. So I really hope she's getting her bag and her dues because she is a good narrator. I don't know if she's one of my favorite narrators, but she's definitely, I don't know, I put a lot of her stuff, maybe I'm just not realizing that I do enjoy her as a narrator because all the stuff she's narrated is in my top 20. Well, let's move on. So number 13 is going to be Divine Rivals. This is the other author that I was like, oh, this one is going to be a hit for me. And I just feel like I want to get into this and her backlist and I want to read it all. It's not too long. It's only like maybe 8 or 9 books, like doable. And like I was like this and Rebecca Ross and Sarah Beth Durst, I hope they're going to be my girls because again, this one, the fantasy stuff is not what was like super calling out to me, but the writing is just so good. The craft of the writing, the intrigue, the set of the characters, the character motivations, I feel like you get a pretty good grasp on it pretty quickly. I was enjoying this. I definitely want to read this for sure by the end of this year. Okay, and the number 12 on my list, which I wish I could get this higher, and it probably could be higher by the time I finish it compared to other stuff, but that's gonna be Vampires of El Norte, which is this a romantasy? I don't know. But the Spanish influence love it. The fairy tale aspect of it, I loved it. The writing was so good. The atmosphere, and that's another thing I've come to realize that I really enjoy is like atmospheric writing that I don't really know. I know it when I see it, you know, like just any author that can like set an atmosphere in a way that is just so captivating and intriguing, like Isabel, I think it's Isabel Conyers. I always mix her up with Isabel Ibanez because, you know, they got the little Inya. I'm pretty sure this is Isabel Conyers, which I didn't read what does she have? The other author, the other Isabel has like they say it's like the mummy meets something. I don't know. I haven't read that, but maybe, is that Romantasy? Maybe that could also be on the list. There's so much Romantasy out there. It's insane and overwhelming. So, but this just is it was so refreshing. That's all I wrote next to it was that it's just so refreshing. It felt so different from everything else, possibly because it's in a different genre, but that just had me like, that also further enforces the point that you should, not you, but I feel like I need to read more broadly in terms of genre because I just like get so hyper focused on fantasy for some reason. I don't know. I love fantasy. Fantasy is my favorite genre, but it's like surprising to me how similar every book can be compared to like, because it's like, oh, we need to stick with the conventions of the fantasy genre in a way versus like when you're in other genres. I don't know. This is not a whole genre conversation. I'm just saying like I found this book very refreshing because it felt different and just like it was just a breath of fresh air. Okay, and here's number 11 on my list, which was in my top 10 for a good amount of time, again, until I found things I was enjoying more. But this one is one that I'm like, everyone I know hates. And it's number 11 on my list, and that is Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. I loved the way this was written. I loved the way it was set up. I loved so much about this. Like I found it, and I know that Powerless is constantly compared to this and saying that Powerless is borderline plagiarizing Red Queen. So I don't know. I found something about Red Queen just to be so incredibly, I loved the use of like, I listened to like a couple minutes before, like maybe like the 5-minute sample, but I finished the whole first chapter of this time and I was like, oh, okay, like again, to set up the intrigue. It's like the Hunger Games with magical powers, like, which I just feel like would add this other layer to make everything, of course the Hunger Games is incredible, probably better than Red Queen, obviously, but like adding in the magical powers, just, I don't know, like I want to read it so bad. I don't know if I want to read the whole series, but I at least want to read the first book. Okay, and then number 10 is a book I have read, and I'm sure millions of people have read it. It's arguably the most popular right there after Fourth Wing. Like I know it's incredibly hyped, and I've already read it, but rereading the first chapter, it's ACOTAR. I don't know, something about it, again, I think Sarah J. Maas just hits that like compulsively readable thing that she does, like that authors can do, some authors can do in a way that just, because I remember, and like the setup of like, oh, we all hate the Fae, there's like so many myths about the Fae are the worst thing ever, and like obviously knowing where the books go is, maybe that made me more intrigued but yeah, now I kind of want to reread it. And like I have not read all of Throne of Glass or Crescent City, and like part of me wants to do that just to be part of the club. But I also don't love, like, what's the book that really like made me turned off by it? Either Heir of Fire or A Court of Wings and Ruin. I feel like Heir of Fire kind of turned me off more because I was so into Crown of Midnight, and Heir of Fire was on my like most disappointing books of the whole year. But I know that's again a whole other conversation. ACOTAR unfortunately wasn't my top. I was like, oh, you know what? Yeah, maybe I'll just read ACOTAR and Akamath and just like let that be it, because I don't feel like, I don't know. Then everyone says Throne of Glass is like, some people say it's like their favorite thing they've ever, Kingdom of Ash. I don't know. I could be convinced. Maybe if someone agrees to read it with me for like, emotional support, I could just join a read along. I'm sure someone is doing a Throne of Glass. I'm sure there is somebody doing a Throne of Glass read along somewhere. I just need one other person to read it with me. That's it. Okay, the number 9 on my list. This is another author. I feel like these like YA to adult, like borderline authors, I feel like Divine Rivals. Rebecca Ross. I feel like she meets that. I feel like Sarah Beth Durst. Hopefully, I've read one chapter of one of her book, so I don't know how accurate that is, but I'm hoping that's the case, because for some reason that's just what I'm enjoying reading in terms of fantasy at the moment, is just like the YA to adult borderline age range of reading. Anyways, did I say the book yet? It's Furyborn by Clare Legrand. I feel like Clare Legrand, Sarah Beth Durst, and Rebecca Ross, I'm very intrigued by all of these authors, and I'm hoping to enjoy all of their work that is out, that I can get my hands on, because again, this is like I do love, like I love Truly Devious, which is not even fantasy at all, but I loved it because I loved, one of the reasons why I loved it is because it went back and forth in time. And I know that Furyborn, I believe, goes back and forth between time and POV and like one queen in the past. So I'm just, again, the reviews maybe have me more intrigued than I would be had I not been aware of them. I don't know. We'll see. I'll have to read the whole book and see if I still agree or not. But Fury, also angels. I'm a sucker for angels. Like, I love angels in a book. I just do. I don't know what it is. I just do. Also, I just feel like describing any love interest as angelic, I'm gonna just, something about the religious upbringing in me, I don't know what it is. Like, I'm not that anymore. But describing a man as angelic, I mean, I don't know. It just does something for me. Okay, the number 8 is a book that I, again, have already read, but this is arguably, I think, one of the best first chapters like ever written. Like, to me, I think this is like, if you don't know if you're gonna like fantasy romance or you maybe like the fantasy more than, I don't know, you need an Ember in the Ashes. Like, this is such a good first chapter. It sets up the world so well. It sets up the characters so well. It sets up everything so well. And you are like instantly, at least for me, instantly invested in the situation, in the politics, oh, it's so good. I want to read it so bad now because it's so incredible. In just the first chapter, you meet the main person, you meet her brother, you are intrigued by who is this like entity he's working for, is he working for it or not, but we have to hide like this drawing pad. Like, it's so good. It's so good. It's such a good first chapter. And I remembered all of that. Like, I want to reread the series. I want to read the series because, again, people say it's like a better Throne of Glass, and it's also less books. So, you know, plus we got a spin-off series now. I don't know. I definitely remember reading this. Like, we're not going to get into a whole rant here about Ember in the Ashes. Okay, just know it's number 8 for me. And the next, people will probably be angry with me for like the following books in my top 10, because you could probably argue that Ember in the Ashes is much better quality than some of what's coming next. But I don't have any rhyme or reason here. I just had like, okay, well, I just kind of I just read the first chapter and then I compared it to, you know, what I had in the list and where I thought it had, you know, everything had to be ranked somewhere. I love ranking things. I don't know what it is. I just have such a fun time pitting things against each other, obviously, in a way that's like, this is a good way for me to explain my taste, for you to learn my taste, for you to tell me what I should continue, should not continue. I feel like the hype of Shield of Sparrows is going to make many people argue for me that I should give it more time, or not. Maybe you have no idea what the book is. I don't know. All right, and then number 7 on my list is purely in the top 10 for one reason, and that is that we do not start in a female POV. We start in the guy's POV, and there's 50 books that I have read the first chapter of, and none of them do that. So I just found that to be, again, so refreshing and different and enjoyable, because I've been in the head of 49 women by doing this, and starting the story in a male POV was just very unexpected. And I don't know, I didn't even say the book. Her Soul to Take, which I believe is a paranormal romance, which I also feel I'm gonna have a bias to enjoy the paranormal romances possibly more, because I've just never been an epic fantasy. Epic fantasy, when I like it, I feel like it's the exception, not the rule. I just think that it's really hard. Epic fantasy is very difficult to pull off. I don't know that we would consider any of these to be epic fantasy. However, paranormal urban fantasy is where my love of reading was reignited. So I have a bias towards it. And books with words like soul in the title, yeah, it's just gonna get me. It's just gonna get me. And I honestly couldn't tell you what happens in the first chapter story-wise. I just know, just the fact that we start in a guy's point of view is enough for me to put it in my top 10, because it's just that different. Okay, and then number 6, some of these in my top 10, I'm like, yeah, everyone knows what they're talking about, okay? And that's gonna be One Dark Window. Yeah, the writing, I loved it. I loved the writing. I loved the character. I think we're in first person here. I think it's not present tense. So it was just, it's my kind of book. It was very atmospheric. That's what I'm saying. I think this was a book that had me like, oh, I love an atmosphere, because we really get into, it's just an incredible atmosphere. Okay, and number 5 on my list is, again, probably going to upset some people, because they would probably argue with me that it's, also I know just like the Goodreads average rating compared to everything else I've mentioned is so much lower, but that is the XX. The XX by, I know, the Aaron Sterling. Aaron Sterling. Again, this is an author, I feel like, I know it's a pen name for Rachel Hawkins, and I think I want to, again, dive into the backlist here because I feel like it's going to just hit for me. You know, I know she has Hex Hall, which I believe is like a paranormal school, like sign me up. That's what I want to read. But the XX, it was, again, refreshing because I've been reading all of these like fantasy worlds that are like separate from our own, but here we're just like talking about basic stuff in real life, but your girl's a witch. Like just something about it. It just scratches an itch for me that is one of my favorite itches to scratch. Okay, the number 4. This is where, this number 4, this was number like 2 or 3 for so long. Like this was so, but Zodiac Academy, yeah, I don't know what it is. This is another one I was able to do the graphic audio for, so I got a good chunk of the story in there, and I can tell you right now, I know that we are moving through this story at an insanely quick pace. I know that this story, insane. Like, it's like, 1 minute your girl is like trying to steal money, she drops her money, but then all of a sudden some guy brings her money, and then all of a sudden, like literally 10 seconds later, we're at a magical school, and these girls can do everything. Like, they clearly have all of the magic powers, like no one else has ever had it. They're so special, they're so unique, like no one's ever come into this world that's like them, and it's just so dumb, and I loved it. It was just, I don't know why, I can't explain it, I don't know. It's just something about it was very gripping. And I'm like, low-key so excited that there's like 25,000 books because I feel like I'm gonna eat them all up. Okay, and now I feel like number 3 and number 2 are to be expected. Like, they are commonly referred to as good. They're quality in a way, especially, well, okay, so number 3, actually I feel like these two, I feel like I could, 3 and 2, they're on the same level for me, really honestly. But number 3 for now is Spark of the Everflame. The fantasy in here, I don't even, it was so good. It was just, the way it's written is stunning. I can absolutely understand why this has now been picked up by a traditional publisher, because it's just that good. And again, like the aesthetic, the atmosphere, the world building, like we didn't meet the love interest yet, which to me is just, although number 2, we'll get into in a second here. But yeah, Spark of the Everflame absolutely will be considered. These top 10, I hope to be reading very, very soon. Yeah, actually no, this is number 3, because number two was number 1 for a long time until, well, okay, so number 2 is Guild, which I really didn't think I was gonna, I had no idea. I really didn't know whether I was gonna love it or not, dislike it, or I don't know. I had no idea. But the first chapter, I love her writing, and the like setup of the world, I really enjoy. I just, again, like when you meet an author who can help you and they write in a way that you just like visualize things so perfectly, it is the greatest gift for an author's writing and your brain to just mesh so well. And to me, that was absolutely this. Like, this first chapter, I was like, oh, I can like picture the room, I can picture the characters, I can picture the situation, like I can just picture it all so lovely in my head. I know there are content warnings for this, so be aware of those, but from the first chapter, the way and like the characters' feelings are feelings that I feel I related to the characters' feelings in a way on some level that just I didn't even know I did. Like, it was incredible. Like, I loved Guild for those reasons, and I definitely, like, again, for sure these top 3 are probably, honestly, these top 5, I'm probably gonna read these top 5, they're priority for sure. Yeah, and I'm actually realizing now that out of these top 5, we have 3 that are like paranormal, urban, and 2 that are actually other world. So I mean, clearly I can get into the secondary world fantasy for it to be number 2 and number 3. I'm excited. I'm just excited for that. But now let's talk about number 1, which number 1, I don't know. You know, maybe, I don't know if anyone out there has this as their number 1. You know, if you've read the whole book, please let me know. If you've read whichever of these that you have read, let me know what your ranking is, because I feel like that'd be fun. Let me know if you feel like my opinions will change as I continue any of the books. Of course, I've already read some of them, but rereading them, I feel like has reignited my love or kept it the way, like Legends and Lattes, I still didn't love reading the first chapter of. So number 1 is going to be Rhapsodic by Laura Thalassa, which again, this is I'm excited to get into our backlist here, because I just love the way it's written. I love a bargain. I love like a Faustian bargain to me is just, again, one of the most intriguing things. But the actual number 1 reason that this is so high on my list is because of the city that this takes place in. It's Los Angeles, which I'm a sucker for LA. I know many people hate it. Many people don't want to live in California. Many people have, you know, I live in Texas now, so like I'm constantly met with like, oh, California, you know, but I love California. I love LA. I love just like the setting of it. I love the show. This reminds me of the show Lucifer. I love the show Lucifer. Okay, and that's set in LA. And I just think that like the characters and the setting and the writing here, the setup, like everything was so intriguing, like the most intriguing out of anything else on the list. So That is why it's my number one. That is why it's probably going to be read very soon on my channel. But I will also say, now that I have read all 50 of these books, of course, there are many things in which there are similarities that I found annoying in the first chapter. Mostly, I found it refreshing when we were in a male POV. I found it refreshing when we did not meet the love interest in the first chapter, because I personally feel like that is way too soon. Just that's my opinion. I don't think we should, although Fourth Wing was in my top 15, I think, so, or top 20. So of course there's that. But, you know, sometimes you can do the common thing and it can still be interesting and engaging. However, I prefer to meet like a character and their family, or a character talking to their friend, as opposed to love interest, because I feel like the friend, I think as an established dynamic is just a better way to start for us to actually get to know our female main character. However, yeah, and I can't remember if we met the male love interest in Rhapsodic in the beginning. I think she's starting off the story with a situation where she's trying to get him back in a way, and that's why she's talking about making a deal. So I don't know who the love interest is. I like when I start the book and I don't know who the love interest is. When I immediately know who the love interest is, I just find that generic. I do feel I would be curious. I mostly got this list from the fantasy romance subreddit. So shout out to all of you for putting that list together. Thank you so much. And I would be curious to do this with like any of the, I've read much more fantasy from the regular fantasy subreddit. So I'd be curious to do something similar with the books over there I have not read, but I've read a lot of them. So not a lot of them. I'm sure I could find 50 I haven't read, because that list is like 250 books, but 250 series actually. So let me know if you'd be curious to see that. Let me know. Again, I would love for you to leave in the comments below which of these Romantasy books you have read that you would put in your top 10, and or out of the ones that are not on this list, like what is your favorite? What's your recommendation for beginner Romantasy people? Also, especially if you have like urban fantasy recommendations. I'm really surprised. Like I said, I think the thing that surprised me the most about this list is that I was not super into the Black Dagger Brotherhood, because at least in the first chapter, because I have seen many people who I have rated similar books to give that high ratings, and they seem to have similar taste in romance to me. They've given that book 5. So like, I just think maybe the first chapter won't do it for me, but the rest of the book will, you know? I don't know. I really want to get into, I don't know how much I really got into like urban fantasy. I also feel like urban fantasy, I can tell you, like, I know there's Mercedes Lackey, I just feel like, my point is that there's a lot of urban fantasy that's just like 20 to 25 books long, and I personally love a series where we go like, I love like a trilogy or even a 6-book series where and then we have spin-offs and follow different characters. Like following the same character for like 20 books just feels a bit much to me. I don't know if I could get that, but I do like following the same character for like 3 to 6 books. So just some things I'm sharing. Yeah, I also don't know that I love, like, I don't know. I'm obviously trying to figure out what I enjoy. If you watched my last video, which was like a huge, just a huge like explosion of thoughts with not much structure to it. So I apologize for that, but I appreciate anyone who watched that, because I just feel like I needed to vent. And I feel like this was a very good and exciting way to try to figure out what I actually want to be reading. And I'm excited to see, you know, how all of these books end up being rated in the future. So I think it's going to be it for today. I will leave my Instagram, Goodreads, and TikTok in the description for you to check out if you would like. Otherwise, have a great day. Bye.